I'd like to call the meeting to order and do a roll call, please.
There we go. Councilors Olson,
Here.
Novak, Bartholomew,
Here.
Kopsinski,
Here.
Johnson,
Here.
and Smith.
Here.
5 councilors present, Your Honor.
I'm here too.
Mayor Alex Johnson II.
Here.
Okay, 5 councilors present, Your Honor.
Next, we'll have business from the public. Do you have anyone signed up to speak today? Thank you. First up on today is Bob Moore. Your name's on the list, man. Have a seat. Kinsey, 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Johnson, council members, thank you for your time today. I'm Bob Moore, the treasurer of the Albany Downtown Association. I believe that others following me today are going to thoroughly address the topic of what I've been told is the cap, and so I'm not going to go there. But the Albany Downtown Association has served the residents of Albany for over 40 years. Much of that funding allows us to improve and beautify the downtown area. Comes from transit and lodging tax. In your packet, you'll see we've requested a supplemental budget of $48,450 from the remaining unallocated balance of $430,000 in the 2021-2022 TLT revenues. The Albany Downtown Association is excited about CARA's new waterfront plan, so much so that nearly 30% of the request is for that new waterfront. As with other streetscapes, the plans for Water Avenue include infrastructure for the ADA to extend the ambiance of downtown to include banners, hanging baskets, snowflakes, etc. I'm sure you're aware this is a time of ever-increasing costs. For example, the price of our locally made metal snowflakes has increased from $375 to $605 in just the last 3 years due to the increase in material and labor. We expect to see similar increases in hanging baskets and lights as well. It's important we place those orders as soon as possible to gain favorable off-season pricing. We love downtown Albany and are looking to continue to make downtown Albany an amazing place to eat, shop, play, work, and visit.
Thank you. Thank you, Bob. And we all agree with you. Next up is Jody Cruz.
Hi, Alex. Congratulations on your granddaughter.
Thank you.
So fun.
Mic closer. Bring the mic a
Here
little
we go.
closer.
Better? Okay. I'm Jody Cruz. I'm the president of the Albany Visitors Association. Thank you for letting me speak to you today. We've submitted the list of our current board members and staff so you can see where we represent Albany, our tourism industry, and our historic community. Today, if you have any questions for us, we hope you reach out to us. We are here to ask you that you approve all the supplemental budgets requesting funds from the excess TLT revenues presented today and that the cap on the existing program budgets be removed. In 2021, a single line was added to the contract limiting the AVA budget to $273,100 per year, which locked in a budget cut of 33% from pre-pandemic levels, regardless of any increase in TLT revenues. A similar limit was placed on the ADA budget. We ask that the cap be removed from ADA and ADA budgets because asking for existing programs to lose funding that should the TLT go down but not gain funding if it goes up, limits the resources and tools available to serve our community. Seth has mentioned that these outside agencies weren't expected to provide the same level of service, and that was a bit of relief during our time. However, we feel at this point we need to answer the residents, visitors, and tourism partners and to our board of directors as a nonprofit organization to get back on board. Removing the cap doesn't mean that funding from any other program. It only allows that we can go back to what we were doing prior to the pandemic. The existing programs were not included in the supplemental budget approved in 2022. The supplemental budget presented was reverse of the policy currently in place. The management instructions were explained throughout the policy, but most clearly stated on the final line. Section 6, line 3, increased revenues will be directed first to existing programs, secondly to the reserve account, and thirdly to new programs on a proportionate basis. Now that the debt has been placed, the reserve established, and the CTP funds have been budgeted, excess TLT funds can be directed to the existing programs at the same percentages that they have already been budgeted. If you vote to approve the request we are presenting to you today, you will not regret your decision because we won't let you down. Our board is here to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Jody. Can you check the mics, please?
I do not see a button. Pull it here. Even more. For the next person. Okay. Thank you.
Next up is Peggy Burris, Director.
Good afternoon, City Council, Mayor Alex Johnson, and city dignitaries. I am here today as co-chair of the TLT Advisory Committee. In reading over today's work session agenda and the staff memo, I wanted to make sure the council knows how the TLT committee voted and our recommendations for our meeting earlier this month. First, the TLT voted on 4 things: to encourage and support the supplemental budget requests submitted by the ADA, AVA, and the Monteith House. These requests were presented at our meeting, and we all agreed unanimously that these agencies need their supplemental budgets funded. Number 2, we all supported and look for your support by approving the grants that were presented to us for the CTP funds. Number 3, we did not approve the language for the new commission statute, and we have several recommendations for language changes. We can present those recommendations to you at a later date. And number 4, we approved and are requesting supplemental budget for the CTP fund grants, adding in another $50,000 to be released this budget year. In looking at the staff memo under other opportunities, it appears that there are quite a few economic development requests. Unfortunately, there are no dollar amounts listed. However, I feel that these items would be best suited for the Economic Opportunity Fund. There had been a loan on this fund, but it was paid back by TLT funds. So I believe the fund should be over $109,000. I would like to know what the balance is on that fund, and wouldn't these items be better fit for that fund? In closing, the committee and I feel very strongly that our local agencies, ADA, AVA, and the Monteith House need these funds. TLT funds are up. Travelers are back. We see it at the carousel, and we see it in the numbers. The attitude of just because we can fund these agencies doesn't mean we have to is a poor way to support our community partners. I have copies of my letter if you would like a copy of it.
Please give it to Gabe, please. Thank you. Next on tonight's agenda is the second reading of an ordinance. Go ahead.
Mayor, we have one person signed up to do virtual testimony.
Virtual test. I didn't see them on the list. Okay, thank you. If you're here virtually, please unmute yourself and identify yourself.
It's Maddie McGregor, Mayor Alex.
Oh, thank you. Hi, Maddie.
Hi, and greetings to the council members as well. My name is Maddie Madeline McGregor, and I'm a North Albany resident represented by Ward 1. I'm also a member of the Albany Visitors Association Board and wanted to just say a few quick words about the AVA. As board members, we review and approve the AVA's budgets, direction, and overall mission. That mission includes improving and strengthening the economic vitality of our community and to present Albany as a thriving destination and tourism gem that it really is. I'm also a volunteer member of various City of Albany ADA planning committees. One of my interests is developing a dedicated barrier-free Albany and helping people with disabilities participate in community life at the highest level. My term on the AVA board brings an awareness of accessible tourism, a niche market that is vitally important to those who want to travel and enjoy the same levels of participation as people without disabilities. As a person living with congenital disease that has affected my own mobility, I am keenly aware of what needs to be improved and how we can reimagine and implement a barrier-free Albany. I believe that a focus on accessibility for all will bring in new economic opportunities and open doors for others to fall in love with our city the way most of us who live here already have. If any members of the council have questions for me, please do not hesitate to ask. I truly welcome them. And thank you for allowing me to speak tonight.
Thank you, Madeline. Does any members present with any in attendance like to speak to the public, speak to the council? Please.
I had signed up online. Ready?
Go ahead.
My name's Rachel Watkins. I'm the director of the Phoenix Inn Suites in Albany. I also serve on the AVA board of directors. I'm here today representing the Albany lodging properties. We've submitted a letter in support of the AVA's supplemental budget request. You should have received it earlier. We also request the City Council remove the wordings that limits the budget on the contract for fiscal year 22 and 23. We appreciate your time, and if you guys have any questions for me, I'm here to answer them.
Thank you. Your letter we received a letter earlier today. Thank you. Anyone else from the gallery would like to speak to the council? Okay, we'll move on. Second reading of an ordinance amending Comprehensive Plan and Development Code CP-03-22 and DC-01-22, pages 2 through 119 in your packet. City Attorney?
An ordinance amending ordinance number 4836, which adopted the City of Albany Comprehensive Plan, and amending ordinance number 4441. I don't know. I could yell it. Yeah. I'm going to start again. An ordinance amending ordinance number 4836, which adopted the City of Albany Comprehensive Plan, and amending ordinance number 4441, which adopted the City of Albany Development Code by amending the Albany Comprehensive Plan and the Albany Development Code text and adopting findings.
I have a motion.
Move to adopt the ordinance.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no.
No.
Motion passes. Thank you. Next on the agenda, additional transit lodging tax funding requests. Seth Sherry will be speaking, pages 120 through 141 in your packet.
Mr. Mayor, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Just to set the context real quick, we're about 3/4 of the way through the biennium. And as you know, you're all familiar with the supplemental budget process. If you choose to go forward with some of these recommendations or all of them. They'll come back to you in the form of a supplemental budget. If you choose to not go forward with any of them or all of them, those funds will then become part of the ending fund balance and then the beginning fund balance for the next year. So just to make sure that that process is understood.
Okay.
Thank you. Can you guys hear me okay? Okay. I was told I was too loud in the last meeting, so this sounds a little bit better for my ears here at least. Mayor and councilors, thanks for your time this evening. Peter, thanks for your opening remarks. I trust all of you received the staff memo about the business at hand this evening. A few of you have reached out with some clarifying questions. Thanks for doing that. That's always helpful prior to a meeting. I thought it might be good to just touch on what the purpose of this is and what it's not. So this wasn't intended to be a discussion on redefining TLT uses and priorities or removing caps. This term's been used quite a bit. Budgets is more accurate, and we can talk about that if you want to. But really, or any kind of return to some historic amounts of outside partnership. Those are good and important questions, but not the purpose of the discussion tonight. Those would typically be more appropriately addressed during the budget creation, the budget cycle. That being said, if you want to address any of those, I'd be happy to. The purpose was to ask you, the council, if you wanted to do anything with what we typically think of as one-time monies, higher than anticipated revenue. This higher revenue exists because during the 21-23 biennium budget cycle sort of development period, there was a lot of unknowns about what tourism might look like and the resulting revenue. What the city did was work with, take the recommendations from Travel Oregon, which is really the state's travel agency, who estimated that travel levels would probably be something like 70% of normal. So that's essentially what we based the budget on. Thankfully, it's come back. There's been a lot of pent-up demand, and folks have been traveling, so that's great, business and pleasure. So it's a chance to say, do you want to move forward in thinking about using any of these one-time monies? This isn't something we typically, we try to budget in a way that meets revenues. One-time monies in a strategic way, given that there are some competing interests and opportunities, and give you a chance to ask staff or others questions around maybe what some of the needs are associated with the proposals that have been put forward to you. That's really all it's meant to be. Again, I'm happy to address other questions if you have them. So I think the number of 430,000, something like roughly, it's actually a little bit more probably, not probably, it is a little bit higher than that, is what is sitting out there, what would become a beginning balance in the next biennium. Again, typically, I just want to normalize this for you. There are occasions where revenues come in higher for many different budgets within the city, and typically those are used as a beginning balance during the next biennium. Really nothing unique about that. In this case, it's relatively high, and there's some excitement around that for sure. It presents a unique opportunity, I guess I'll just say that once again. I just noted for you in this memo that there are really primarily three things you could do. One is do nothing and allow for a higher than anticipated beginning balance, like I just noted. You could ask staff to incorporate some or all of these requests into the next biennial budget, or you could make a supplemental budget. And again, this is not a decision on a supplemental budget this evening. This is, do you want to do a supplemental budget, which would be prepared and presented by Gina or Gina Yeager, the finance director. So with that in mind, with the business at hand or other things, do you have questions for me or other staff?
Yes.
Councilor Kopczynski?
Director, am I inferring from what you're saying that even if we requested a change for any of the agencies whatsoever going forward, that it's going to require a supplemental budget, and we would make that normal process done, affirmed at our December 14th council meeting to request that, right?
Okay, so what's at hand right now, the requests that these great people and partners have put forward, is an amendment to an existing contract within a biennial budget. So it would be dealt with through contract amendment for additional services or our opportunities. For example, the ADA has talked about purchasing, new snowflakes to replace some, and also create enough so there's continuity along the waterfront when that project's created, which I think is just fantastic. So those are contract amendments and changes. I think what you noted just now, Ray, is that if you didn't choose to do anything now via a supplemental budget, there'd still be a beginning balance, a sizable one in the next biennium. And these requests could be treated there if you wanted to do additional allocations of these funds during the next budget cycle as well.
By the same token, we could request that as part and parcel of any proposal we make tonight.
That is correct. You could. We'd need to put together a proposal and bring it back to you in the future. Correct. Yep.
Thank you.
Within this biennium.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other counselor? Counselor Bartholomew?
And so I'm just jumping on to Councilor Kobzinski's and clarifying something for myself, and that is if a supplemental budget would be something that would be distributed immediately? Or
Yeah,
thereabout?
I mean,
And the next budget cycle is for the July, starting
Correct.
July.
Yeah, it would start July 1, the next biennium. And as you know, that process starts here right away. But yes, immediately with some caveats, right? It doesn't happen, the next hour, but it would happen in a reasonable amount of time. Correct.
Counselor Novak?
Yeah, thank you. So, and I just want to make sure that I am hearing clearly that if we want to create a supplemental budget for 2021, 2023, as in now, not shoving it off to 23, 25 budget, incorporating some or all of the requests, we would do that this evening.
You would request that staff bring you back a supplemental budget.
And we could direct staff to include these requests.
That would be correct, yeah.
All right.
Mr. Mayor, may I? Our finance director will come back with a supplemental budget, because what a supplemental budget does is recognize that a 2-year biennium, there's a lot of things that come up over the course of 2 years that need to be corrected. Either they cost less or they cost more than were anticipated when the budget was created. So there will be this supplemental budget will create or will contain other items. The question is, do you want to include these items in that supplemental budget?
Counselor Smith was next, and then Counselor Olson.
Thank you.
And then Counselor Johnson.
My question is directly to the Parks Director.
Here she comes now.
It's good to see you in person.
Lovely to be back in person. Woo. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Awesome.
My question is, would the stage at Timberland Park be temporary, or would it be permanent? And if permanent, would it replace the stage that we either borrow or rent for the event stage that's related to Northwest Art and Air Festival?
Excellent question. I wish I could say that it would be a forever thing. It would hopefully maybe even cover 5 nights, as that's how expensive it is to erect temporary stages.
I wondered
So-
about that cost, yeah.
So, yep, and it's a little bit of a fluid situation, as, we based the estimate off of what we thought we would need. The matter of finding a vendor to do it, as well as equipment costs and staffing, are still up in the air as we're trying to figure that out right now. So it would just be for those 4 to 5 evenings this upcoming summer.
Question number 2, in light of climate change, would you anticipate that the proposed cleanup solution at Waverly Lake would last beyond one season?
The hope is yes. We have seen communities that have aerators and fountains that do help ongoing. We believe that we have the information enough to size it appropriately for a pond our size, but these days, until I see it, I don't necessarily believe it. But the hope is that it will give us a little bit of relief for the next few years. If not, we've also looked at what potential additional measures could be requested in the future through owning additional equipment.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
Counselor Johnson and then Counselor Olson.
Okay.
Don't let her go.
Oh, don't let her go. Yeah. Mine has to do with the stage two. I guess, am I the only one who didn't know that the concerts were being moved from Monteith to Timberland?
I knew about it.
I mean, I didn't know it was even in the process.
So it's just for this year because construction
Yeah.
of the waterfront project.
Okay.
So instead of us going dark for a year, we thought, hey, let's try to figure out some way to continue to provide
Oh.
service. So that was our best. That was our best attempt to try.
And
to
I agree and stuff. It was just a surprise to me when I read that. Oh, really?
Sorry.
But, okay, so I think Counselor Smith covered it. So what we do for the Aaron Festival, we rent. Okay, and so for our concert, I guess that'd be like for 10 days, huh?
It's a pretty major undertaking.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
so it's you look at that amount and you think, holy
Okay.
moly, that's it for a stage.
Yeah.
But it is quite an undertaking to provide rigging for national acts.
Yeah, and
at that level.
it'll be a great replacement too. I mean, since we won't be able to have, probably have more people. So with the great lineup we're going to have, I'm sure.
We're doing our best.
Okay,
We're
all
doing
right.
our best.
And that's all I have for the parks.
Okay, Counselor Olson.
It seems to me the existing stage at the lake is satisfactory for the Art and Air Festival. In what way do you need a bigger, better stage for Mondays and Wednesdays?
Sure.
Seems like $100,000 for a temporary stage is pretty rich for our a city with financial problems. You know, we can't even afford to help somebody like Cerberus with the problems that they've got. Somebody that's nationally known as a restaurateur. Can we help them? No, not a penny for them. But $100,000 for a stage that we'll use for how many performances are you talking about?
Potentially up to five, because we would probably do something.
Are they just going to be Wednesdays or nothing on Mondays?
So at this point, the stage that is out there is a concrete pad. So what you see at Northwest Art and Air, we actually have to bring in a set, scaffolding, lights, sound, all of that. So even if we went out there right now and had a concert, we would have zero infrastructure except for electrical ports out there. So unfortunately, if we do anything out there, we need to bring in infrastructure. And with trying to figure out how to be the best stewards of public dollars, we, at this point, are looking at doing River Rhythms out there and running a stage, which would have it at 5 nights. We wouldn't even be able to do it for Mondays at Monteith because that would skyrocket the cost even more. And so we would be using our temporary mobile stage for that program at an alternative location in the park. It'll have a very different feel. But yes, I completely understand. We are very lucky to be able to provide the quality of entertainment and events. Our staff are amazing. But it does cost money in order to provide the level of service that we have been providing over the years.
So what do we do with the existing stage there on the lake? Do we just abandon that?
So it's still there. We would build off of the concrete platform. It's essentially just a concrete
Slab.
pad out there right now that we build infrastructure.
Seems like
for
there's lots of
Northwest
lights, lots of noise when I've been there. I don't know how you do that.
Yep, that is the infrastructure that you see out there for Northwest Art and Air is not infrastructure we own. We have to pay a contractor to bring it out.
And how much does that cost per performance?
Northwest Art and Air is a little bit of a different beast, but it is. I don't have the numbers right off the top of my head. I'm more than happy to report back, but it is. It is
tens, 15s of thousands? How?
Over 10.
Okay, thank you.
I think Counselor Kopsinski?
No.
I thought I saw your hand up. Okay.
No.
Counselor Johnson?
Okay. So with what you're planning to do, it seems like if you waited for the next budget in June, May, it would be too late. I mean, you have to do this prior to the concert starting. So it seems like a supplemental budget is the only way that we're going to get anything that will help with the performances and stuff. So
We would need to have assurances that the funds are going to
Yeah.
be there for us to put the contracts forward, but we actually don't, payment doesn't essentially take place until after the first of the year.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you.
Counselor, any other question? Okay.
For what? For the stage or?
For this discussion
Supplemental
with,
budget or what?
this supplemental budget discussion with Seth. Any questions for Seth?
Yes, I have a question about the supplemental budget. If we ask for a supplemental budget, when does it take effect? And when is the money available?
That's a great question, and I need to defer to Director Yeager a little bit on that, and she's not here this evening. She had to take care of some family business. I don't know how long it normally takes. The funds are essentially there, Councilor Olson, so
Well,
going
I'm
through
not worried
the...
about the funds. I know they're there.
Oh, I thought you asked
You
that
got
question.
$400,000 sitting there in the bank.
Yeah,
The funds are there.
okay.
But I'm
yeah.
wondering about the people that are not getting the money they need. When do they start getting the money they need?
Probably two answers then. I think we can talk about how quick funds turn over if a supplemental budget was created. But just to be very clear, every person that or every entity that receives transient lodging tax dollars has a contract associated with that we worked on and agreed for a level of service and for a time period, which includes this entire biennium. Everybody does. So no one's been robbed of anything, and there's been no mid-budget changes to anyone's budget either. I recognize, though, that it's been at a lower level than previous years, and that was to account for unknowns with the effects of COVID.
Well, the beginning of this COVID thing, you essentially put the AVA and the ADA in the poorhouse, and you're asking them to stay there until this supplemental budget takes effect sometime when? 5 months? A month? A year? How long?
Mr. Mayor?
Manager, you must know something about budget.
Counselor, I'm going to ask the city manager to comment.
Pardon me?
Asking Peter to comment.
Okay, so when we go through the budget process, as you all know, people submit, departments submit, anybody that receives city funding submits a budget. And it's no different for recipients of TLT. They submitted a budget, and we're living by that budget. There's really no such thing as caps. It's just the budgeted amount. As Seth tried to point out earlier, if our property tax revenues go up, we don't go around telling people to spend more money. That doesn't really make any sense. The budgeted amount is the budgeted amount. Now, having said that, if there are exigent circumstances and there is need to create a supplemental budget, which almost always there is, then the finance director will collect all of those requirements, put them into a supplemental budget, bring them to the council for the council's affirmative vote, if they choose to vote in the affirmative. And once they appropriate those supplemental budget amounts, then those budget amounts are distributed and the recipients are free to spend them.
So if we voted for a supplemental budget tonight,
You don't have a
when
supplemental.
would it?
You don't have a
take
supplemental budget tonight. The finance director has to put that together and bring it to you because, as I said, it will contain the supplemental. You could go through 3 or 4 or 5 supplemental budgets in a period if you wanted to, but you can imagine that's amount of workload in itself to collect all of these budget requests. So there will be a supplemental budget submitted to you. I have to check with Gina
Can
to
you
find
tell
out
me when?
where she is in that process. And as soon as you vote in the affirmative on that budget, it becomes available to the people who have put in those budget requests.
I'm well aware of that. I'm wondering, when do you start formulating that supplemental budget? When can it take effect?
As I said, Finance Director Yeager has already started it. I'd have to check with her to see how far along and when she anticipates bringing that forward to the council.
But we haven't requested that stuff. And I'm not talking about property tax. I'm talking about TLT money. You got a
Understood.
big chunk of TLT money sitting there someplace in a money bag.
Well, city,
And it would seem to me we could have a supplemental budget on the TLT money.
city revenues include TLT dollars. They also include property tax. They also include state shared revenues, fees for service, all kinds of things. we still don't, when they come in at amounts that are greater than expected, we don't just say, oh, go spend it. We try to be good stewards of the funds that we receive and stick to our budgeted amounts unless there's a compelling need to spend more. And if there is, the finance director will bring that, I will bring that forward with her help. We'll submit it to you. And of course, you're going to discuss tonight, if you will, any further and tell us if any of these are compelling needs to you, and those will be included in that supplemental budget.
Well, I'm hoping that the sooner we request that there's a supplemental budget, the sooner money can be shaken loose so that these entities can do the things that need to be done. For instance, if we have to wait, if we're going to have a stage out there on Timberland Park, and we wait for a supplemental budget to make monies available for that, when does that occur? A month from now? 2 months from now?
As Director Ledane said, they just need to have reasonable assurances that that funding is going to be available. The actual building of that stage will not be till many months from now.
Yeah.
Oh, so the AVA and the ADA, they can go ahead and spend without much of any limit and just assume.
I think you misunderstood what I said.
It's going to come around and they don't know how much it might be.
The Parks Department,
I think this council is remiss on putting this off.
So
you misunderstood what I said. We cannot build a stage using those monies until the council appropriates that money. Just nobody else can use that money either until you appropriate it.
So if we were to appropriate this money, the various items on page 120, those monies would be available?
That's correct. What you will do tonight is give me and Gina direction that you want to include 1, 2, 3, all of these requests in the supplemental budget, and then that's what we will do.
Well, then I think, Ray,
so
we ought to be doing it.
So, question for you, from me, thank you. So, I saw a document that had that the budget amount or the amount from the TLT to the organization would be a certain line, a limit. Can you please explain that line? It would not go above or something like exceed or whatever? I don't know can't remember the exact line.
Yeah, and maybe I can just talk about it generally. If you find it, I can maybe address it.
Because my concern is that if TLT dollars goes down, we lower the limit. We lower the amount we give them.
Okay, so
if it goes up, we're holding it. We're keeping it at a certain level.
Yeah. So let me just try to recap the last 3.5 years briefly, because this is all unprecedented, Mayor. 2019, COVID hits, mid-budget cycle. The way TLT allocations have worked in the past is it was almost all given out at the beginning of the fiscal year prior to receiving the revenue to pay for that. So if the revenue doesn't come in, we now have obligations that go well beyond our capacity to fund, right? You don't have money, but you've promised the money, you're in a bad place. That's exactly what happened in 2019. So much so that you almost lost staff, that we had to, well, we didn't have to, but you chose to do a loan to try to make some of our outside partners whole, at least to be able to operate in part for a given period of time. There's some bit of teamwork going on there, but it was rough times. And so what we worked on with the council, approved with the council and the budget committee, and frankly, well, I'll leave it at that, was a strategy to not be in that position again. To also provide some assurance that there'd be some funds coming in as TLT revenues came in as well. TLT revenues don't have to all be given out to anyone in particular. They have to be spent in accordance with ORS. That means that you're spending whatever required amount you're required to spend on tourism promotion or tourism facilities. The rest of that fund is discretionary to the council. You can use it however you want. Most communities, it's used to fund economic development. But anyhow, I digress. We created a system to where we said on a quarterly basis, let's look back. How much revenue was brought in that quarter? And based on the relative amount of funding from previous unaffected COVID years, right, that some of our partners received, we looked at percentages. We said, roughly you receive this percentage on a normal year, right? It's not written anywhere that says they have to receive a certain percentage, but it just says you received about, say, 25%, right? Roughly speaking. So now moving forward, each quarter, we're going to say, of revenues collected, we're going to give you 25%. We also had to project out what that might look like for the biennium, because that's what a budget is. You have to, with some uncertainty, project out and say, we think this is how much revenue will come in. Therefore, we anticipate if revenues come in, that you, the outside partner, who we have a contract with, will receive up to this amount. The agreement at that time, again, with the approval of council and all of our partners was, maybe some didn't want to do this, but this was the agreement, was that, hey, you know what, if revenues come in higher, we're not going to automatically dole that out just because revenues are higher. That creates a unique opportunity to either have a stronger beginning balance or do a supplemental budget, which is what we're here talking about this evening. That's really, in summation, why we are where we're at.
Thanks for the clarification.
Mayor?
Councilor Smith, she's next.
Thank you. I want to go back to something that Seth said at the beginning of his presentation, and that's summarized in the bullet list on page 121. There are three things that we can do with this money, but the thing that is sticking in my head is that this is one-time money. We didn't know what was going to come in through COVID or after COVID, or this is a lot of money more than we've seen for 3 years. And we don't know if it's going to be steady or if it's a one-off. Things might dive again for whatever reason. When it's a gift horse, it's a bird in the hand, it's all the cliches you can think of something that you didn't expect, you hoped for, but you're not sure that you're going to get the pony under the Christmas tree. And here it is. It's one-time money. I see it as an opportunity to make one-time expenses, and going forward, reevaluate the contracts as we have done every fiscal year and now every biennium based on historical data, best that we know. I don't plan to spend money that I know I'm not going to get. And I think most people operate their lives that way, and that's certainly the way we have to operate city government and do our budgeting. We budget low.
Conservative.
So that we can make sure that we can cover our expenses. Sometimes we can't. Sometimes we have to cut back mid-year. I've been through fiscal years like that, and I think everybody has. That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking this is one-time money with a look at how things go out through the next 6 months and adjust accordingly when we draw up those new contracts.
Councilor Kopczynski.
I was going to go ahead and make a proposal, or is that too soon?
I think Councilor Olson had one more comment.
Are you ready to make your proposal?
Yes.
One thing I would like to say, and I guess Councilor Smith disagrees with this memo that we get from, I think it's the AVA, and item 1. And it says here, since June of 2021, TLT revenue has been higher than ever before. So do you disagree with that, Marilyn?
Councilor Olson, I do not disagree with that. It's a fact that it's been higher than ever before.
So you think revenue is
Please let me
suddenly
finish
gonna
my
fall?
thought. Please let me finish my thought.
Let her finish her thought.
What I was going to say was that it's higher than it's ever been before, but we don't know that that's going to last. We don't know that that's a sustainable thing.
Well, you think people are going to turn into zombies or what?
I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen 5 minutes from now. This is a lot of money. We've never had it before. We don't know if it's going to happen again. I can say that only so many times, and that's my position. I do not disagree that it's a lot of money. It's a lot of money.
So this is what I understand the request is. Call me crazy if I'm not right. For the next supplement, we request a supplemental budget. They ask for the money that's listed here because the revenues are high. The TLT revenues are high. If they go down, they understand that they will be adjusted down accordingly. This is not a guarantee of that funding for the rest of the 10 years, but if it performs well, they get more. If it doesn't perform, they get less. That's what I understand what's going on. So they're asking for a supplemental budget because the fund has done so well to bring these revenues in, and then for the next biennium, they will adjust with the performance of the city. But volunteerism, tourism, all those things. So if it comes in next year at 300,000, they get less money. They're not asking for a hardcore that number. The fund is doing well. Let's use some of that money for more tourism and downtown beautification. If it doesn't do well, they know they won't get that money. I think that's the request I'm hearing. I didn't see that this being we want this money and that's it. We did well. When we did poorly, when things were poorly, we took less money. We got less money. When things go well, why wouldn't we get more money?
I think that's a sentiment that's been shared by some of these people, Mayor.
Right.
But
These are our people.
Practically, no doubt about it. Not everyone shares that sentiment, but some have for
Right.
sure. Practically, though, what's at hand is a supplemental budget, an expenditure of one-time monies. This isn't a discussion right now about TLT policy and allocation of funds. That's what happens typically during the normal budget cycle. What we're offering is if you want to do a supplemental budget to affect this biennium that we're in currently with one-time expenditures, for typically the majority of these things are one-time expenses, not all of them, but the majority,
Right.
For capital expenditures, kind of akin to how we talked about the use of COVID grant funds, biggest bang for your buck, capital expenditures.
Right.
That's what this is akin to, but this is not a reflection on saying in the future we will do this, that, or the other in the next budget cycle. Frankly, we've had these discussions with our outside partners and the transient lodging tax community. We have no intention on doing a dramatic shift of any kind to historical contracts, rather,
Okay.
for the use of these funds.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, you've cut your partners in half, and you're doing everything you possibly can to keep it that way. And I think that
Didn't hear
is
that.
just really too bad.
I didn't hear that. Councilor Johnson?
Yeah, thank you. And Seth, Peter, you can tell me. So Gina is working on a supplemental budget that is covering a lot of different things. What we're doing right here is just adding these 4 requests, and so it's not on its own or anything. It's going to be part of it, and this will just be assisting the different agencies in their requests. Is that correct?
This is to get your sense as a council on whether you'd like all or some of these line items to be part of the supplemental budget. And when the term supplemental budget means it supplements this current budget.
Right.
So its connection to the following years is basically non-existent.
Correct.
To illustrate the picture that you were trying to make, if you used one-time monies to hire somebody into one of the agencies and then expected to keep that staff person on for the following years, that would be incurring a future obligation based on one-time monies.
Correct.
That's not a wise practice.
That's right. I agree with that. Okay, Councilor Novak and then Councilor Kopsinski, and then
Thank you. I don't want to cut off Councilor Kopsinski, but I do need a little bit of clarification. We keep referring to this as one-time monies, one-time monies. I know this is a situation where we have a goodly amount that came in, hurrah, and we can't guarantee what's going to come in year by year. I understand that. But I guess I need clarification because we always have money that comes in for tourism-related things through TLT that has over many, many years now helped fund agencies like the ADA and the AVA. That's not one time. That's just how we roll here. That's how we've been rolling in this town for decades, if I'm understanding correctly. So that's where the use of one-time funds kind of throws me for a loop. Because we have one time with the big blessing of a bonus and yippee and hurrah and thank you, Jesus. We don't know what that's going to happen the next year and the year after. No one's making any projections. I guess in a small way, I sort of kind of a little bit object to the use of the phraseology, given that this is how we do business. It's not like one time. Yes, it's one time that it seems like people, after being told they couldn't go anywhere or do anything for 2 years, over 2 years, now they went somewhere and they've done things and they've come and visited and we've had beds and heads and all that kind of thing, heads and beds. But anyway, if we could.
Let's clarify one-time money.
Okay.
We'll try to do this together
Okay.
then. Typically, when we budget for
Mm-hmm.
any budget, we'll look back at the last several years and look at what revenues were like relative to expenses and do our best guess of what the next biennium looks like. This year has been historically high, not relative to COVID years, relative to most years. So in the next biennium, to suggest or to think that this will be the norm every year would be irregular.
No one's saying that, though, are they?
So this is where the difference between what's normal and this year becomes what we think about as one-time money. We don't anticipate that every year revenue would be this high necessarily. So this is a unique opportunity, almost like a grant, right? To say, how would you use these unexpected dollars, kind of like a grant, to affect the most positive change in the community? And there's different ideas about how to do that. That's what's been discussed. So it's one time in that it wasn't
In that
anticipated and we wouldn't anticipate it in the future.
Okay.
I kind of think of it a bit like when you use your tax return as a savings bank. That's a really poor thing to do, right? You try to match your taxes with your revenues. You don't have you're better off investing that money on your own than waiting for the IRS to give it back to you. It would be a poor practice to do that. So we try to budget to what we think revenues would be.
Thanks for
Councilor Kopsinski?
You're welcome.
that.
Councilor Kopsinski?
One last shot,
Go
Dick.
ahead.
That's a really unfortunate argument. Now, the income may be high right now, this month, or in the last couple of months, but these people are not asking for an extremely extra amount of money. These are getting money back towards normal. And it looks to me that we may have a large amount of TLT money coming in right after COVID, but it looks to me like TLT monies are going to get back to normal. These agencies want to get back to normal. I predict, and I'll be mightily surprised if TLT monies don't get back to normal. So your argument is not good, it's false.
Councilor Kopsinski?
Yes, I've got a two-parter, I guess, and I'll read it kind of slowly so everybody can catch what I'm saying and digesting it. I move we direct staff to bring back a supplemental budget at the next city council meeting to include all the funding requests in excess of TLT revenues collected in 2021-22. And furthermore, to bring back another resolution at the city council meeting, removing the following wording from the current contracts. These payments will not exceed $546,200 in total, or $273,100 per fiscal year of the 2021-2023 biennium for the AVA, and these payments will not exceed $133,200 in total, or $66,000 per fiscal year of the 2021-2023 biennium for the ADA for the remainder of this biennium budget.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Mayor.
Discussion.
No
I think.
discussion?
Mayor,
Yes.
if we could get a copy of that motion, that would help the clerk. Thank you.
Any discussion?
I kind of paraphrased my own writing, so.
I have a question.
Go ahead. Well, actually, I think the city manager was first.
So I would caution you against putting constrictions on how the finance director puts together the budget by putting maximum or minimum amounts on anything. She's going to have to she is doing a lot of work on projections for revenues for the next biennium, and she'll be doing the same thing for TLT along with Seth's help. So I would suggest that you would want the budget to be built for TLT revenues in a manner that's consistent with public budgeting law and practice.
So is this not,
Yeah, when you set limits, yes.
is this not allowed to be done by budget law? The way-
I would turn to Sean Kidd. I don't know if he would know the answer to that. That would take for me, it would take a little bit of looking into what the budget law says about it.
Where I'm coming from on this is that, from my perspective, all of the agencies that are requesting funding tonight are fabulous for the community. But I also believe that the ADA and AAVA as a combination are paramount to the success that we're having in Albany for tourism and everything else. And I think that they really should have some certainty, I guess is the right way to put it. So I'll leave my proposal stand and see what happens.
Good, I appreciate that. Oh, I want to say, don't you have a money bag with $400,000 in it that will cover those relatively small amounts?
That's the reason we're here tonight with you, and you're here tonight talking about this, because those funds are there. You just have to decide how you want to use them. That's
I
all.
would very much like to use them the way the motion directs.
Councilor Smith had something that Councilor
Yeah.
Noel. Okay, go ahead.
I just wanted to say that my understanding of what Councilor Kopczynski put forth was not setting a limit, it was removing a limit. You had something that said not above this amount. That's not setting a limit, that's taking a limitation away. And I'm in favor of that.
And once again, it's never a good idea to provide unlimited. Why would you provide unlimited resources?
No one is saying unlimited, we're just removing in the language. There's language that we take issue with and we want it out. That's my understanding. I don't want those language there.
And it is for a limited duration based on the way the way I wrote that.
Can I, just for clarification,
Go ahead.
what I think Councilor Kopczynski was saying is, and Seth has pointed out, these are individual contracts that we have now for services. Those contracts have I don't want to say the word cap, but there's a limit. There's a amount of money that they're being paid under their contract. And what you're proposing is in this supplemental budget will come back that they will be getting some, and I don't know if we've even determined that, but maybe we have how much of that money they're going to get. But in order for them to receive that money, we have to remove that language, because as of now, the contract says they're only going to get X. We're going to allow them to have more than that, and that's why you're asking to remove the language. Is that
correct?
Accurate? Okay. That's legal.
I'd also just note that since they're contracts, if you wanted to amend a contract with any service provider, you need a justification for that, of course, some additional service or what have you. So that would require a contract amendment to happen too. And it would be unprecedented to say, because we used to have a contract with Microsoft for $100,000 and currently it's $75,000, well, we should return to our historical contract with them. I'm not downplaying anyone's importance or contribution to the community, but it's a contract, and so you'd have to have a contract amendment with additional services beyond what was already agreed upon for the amount of money that's contracted currently.
That's what contract negotiations are all about.
Absolutely. But you wouldn't just do that carte blanche without some understanding of what additional services are gained for additional funds.
It's getting back to normal.
But so my question, well, the thing is that the cap was put in there and didn't take away any services they provide.
Well, it did, because they agreed to provide services at a lower, provide less services at a lower budget than some historical years.
Okay, so what they're saying, I understand, is that they're going to return to providing those services, right? And they've performed, and people are coming here to visit. So I don't think a cap, if they perform terribly, tourism's down, they give them less money. If they perform well, why would we cap that?
I'm not making a value judgment here. I'm saying,
Okay.
practically speaking, as a program manager over public funds, we don't just give more funds to people because there's higher property taxes. It's just a practical issue that is relative not only to performance, but services associated with a contract. That's all I'm saying here.
Okay.
I simply have a
You're wrong.
procedural
Go ahead.
question. That
You're wrong.
It's not possible to amend a contract through a simple council resolution, is that correct?
Just saying. We could amend the contracts through motions, it's not like an ordinance or something that has to be passed to amend the contract. So the council, if they approved a contract and they want us to renegotiate a contract, then we can do that through an amendment. And it sounds like, when I was kind of having a side conversation here with the city manager, that the ADA are proposing additional services, which would be additional consideration for the money that they're asking for. And if that's the case, then it's just a contract amendment. They're going to provide additional services. They're going to get additional compensation. If I understand it correctly, and that's.
And that could be spelled out in the amendment language without adjusting the other dollar amounts that are there now. And let
Right.
that ride through the end of the current contract.
Right, so
and
without
look
removing
at
the
where we
language.
are after
Okay.
that.
Right, so without removing the language that's in the existing contract, you could do a 1-2 page amendment that is going to change the consideration and the services, and,
Yeah, due to unanticipated revenue and.
yeah,
Yeah.
something
Okay.
like that.
And practically speaking, Councilor Smith, it becomes a grant, right? They propose to provide a service with a dollar amount attached. The grant's given for the service rendered.
So, thank you very much, Seth. So we had a motion and a second. Go ahead, John. We're done.
We're just
I think we're good.
clarifying that we would still, there is a supplemental budget that's going to be coming forward. We'll still add this to the supplemental budget.
We'll have to pass it first.
Right, but if we do, even though we can amend the contracts, that money that's coming from it would be in the supplemental budget to do that amendment. So that would be the way to go.
Do you have something, Gabe? And we have a motion and a second.
Can I make my comment? Or
Go ahead, please.
Thank you. I just wanted to point out, according to the information that I've reviewed and the letters and the speakers, the ADA and the AVA, just to single them out intentionally, you're talking about providing more services. It seems to me, from what I've read and what I understand, during the time of the pandemic, they were providing extra services because other places could not. I think that, and I'm going to use the language, removing the cap and giving them what they're asking for here, which doesn't impact the budget in any negative way. And we do that for other entities all the time. We do that for staff all the time when it doesn't impact the budget and somebody, needs a raise and back pay and a higher classification. They have provided extra services over these last 2 years at a time when the hoteliers lost their ability to do stuff. They were leaning more heavily on these agencies, and I think they have provided extra service, and I think they're certainly worthy of what they're asking for here because they're not asking for anything extra. I don't see any extra here and any impact on the budget, so that's all I wanted to add. Thank you.
Thank you.
Amen.
Okay. We have a motion and a second.
I
You want
just
anything
wanna
else? We need to
yeah,
we need to vote.
I'm sorry, it's like we're getting way into the weeds.
Yes.
All they're asking for
Is
is
added-
how we're going to spend this extra TLT money. I think going into contracts and everything like that is way too far. Let's just make it simple.
Right.
Let's do this, and then you can decide later how to, the biennium is going to be over in
A year.
June, and so that'll give the city manager and the directors and everything time to look at it. Right now, I don't think we're equipped to make that change. Let's
Correct.
deal with what's in
I
front
agree
of
with
us.
you 100%.
And so I'm going to have to vote no on the vote, on the motion, because I think that went too far into the weeds. I think we just need
So
to
which
go
part do you
forward.
disagree with? The second part or the first part?
Oh, the second part. The first part is just, we're going to deal with these 4 things.
Okay.
Boom, that's it.
Would you
And-
like to amend the motion?
May I ask a question?
Let
before
me
you
ask
amend?
him first. Would you like to amend the motion to address the contract stuff later?
Well, let's get this one down first the way it is and then get it on the record.
Okay. We'll go ahead, we're going to get this done, and then we'll go back to more discussion, okay? Yes.
We'll wait till what's done.
We're going to vote on it, we'll do, on his,
Well, I want to answer Bessie's
go ahead.
question.
Go ahead.
And your question is, we should not be saying how much they're going to get, but you need to think back the way we have handled TLT in the past. the city staff would get part of it, and the people doing the promotions that will help
Yeah.
the transient
Yeah.
lodging people.
Mr. Mayor,
And they agree that they'll pay a tax if the city or whoever provides advertising and brings in, as we call them, heads on the pillow, not
Heads in
on
beds.
heads in the beds.
Yeah.
And what we did 2 years ago is we said, we're going to freeze it back to where they can't get any more than this, no matter how much TLT money there is. And I don't know what percentage of the TLT money they're getting now, but I'll bet you it isn't anywhere close to 70%. And at the last the time we talked about this at a previous meeting, I said, well, now are we going to go back to close to 30, 70 to where the people that are doing the advertising get the 70%? Manager said, well, yes, we will. And so I think we need to vote on Ray's motion the way it is, and I'm all for it.
well, I understand that, but we're not dealing with
Contracts.
the whole contracts and what's going on, because yes, they're all going to gain as we go through the year and into next year. But this is a one-time little pot of money.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is. It's $400 and some thousand. They have requested this, and that's all there is to it. There's no getting into all the contracts and stuff like that. This is just them requesting, like, hey, we want to do flowers, we want to do this, we want to do that, and build a stage. That's all they're asking.
It's two separate items. Go ahead.
It's getting rid of.
Mayor,
Yes.
let me defer to Councilor Novak, and then if I may say something.
Councilor Novak, let me go, Councilor Smith, she's been waiting a while too. Go ahead, Councilor
Thank you. I appreciate it. Councilor Johnson, I just want to address what you said, because my understanding and the words that I read and the things that I heard said they're not just looking and asking for the supplemental budget. They also addressed specific wording that they wanted to see removed. That was spoken here as I came in a few minutes late, and that I've read that and I've heard it in materials from them. They brought it up. They made the request. It's not just us out of the blue saying we want to remove the language. We're honoring or attempting to honor their request. That's part of their request. And part of my question to you is, if we don't do it tonight, when exactly would we get to that? And why should we push it off?
So Councilor Smith and then Manager Sherry.
In advance of the vote, I wanted to explain mine. I have concerns about spending one-time money that will carry us through to the end of the fiscal year for hiring people. I'm really bothered by that.
Okay.
Just want to say, during the pandemic, city staff cut back, a lot of businesses cut back, and they were able to replace their staff. I don't think it's unfair to ask to put staff back when they've been working part-time hours with part-time staff and cut back staff. Honestly, you restore everybody else. I would restore my business if I could. I can't, but we do it for the city. Why would we not do it for these entities that support the city in the way they do? That makes no sense to me. I think it's a legitimate request.
So I'm not hearing disagreement on it being on the supplemental budget, creating a supplemental budget. We're talking about contracts. I think that's where the issue is. So I think it's two separate issues.
And Mayor, if I might, the idea of a cap, we can call it what we want, was a stopgap measure for a very uncertain biennium. There's no intention on doing that in the future. We do have to adjust a little bit of the way that funds are allocated. I think we continue on with this quarterly allocation, so we don't get in a position like we did in 2019 where we were hundreds of thousands of dollars in the hole.
Right.
So that's a stopgap measure. I probably should have started with that as well. We haven't talked about this in great length, but of course there's still a contract with a contracted amount, but again, it was a stopgap measure and not one that we hope to repeat in the future.
I don't think there was any time limit on that cap, and you're wanting to keep that cap forever, looks like to me.
Gabe?
Thank you. Mayor, You just said that you believe there are two different issues. I wanted to let you know procedurally what your options are for that. That you can take a vote on this whole thing, but if you said you believe there are two different issues, I just wanted to remind the body that there's the option to split the question, which would require a vote of the council to split the question into two questions and then vote on each one immediately afterwards separately. Just so you're aware of the procedure.
I couldn't understand a word he said
Yeah,
because of that.
call for the question.
Call the question. Can we go ahead and vote on both
I
of
would
them?
second the motion to call the question.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
For the first, what he said with both of them together.
Mayor, he did make a motion to call the question. So is Councilor Kopsinski moved with a
call the
second from
question.
Olson to call the question, and that can be treated without objection.
Okay.
So and-
Call the question is to bifurcate, right, to separate them?
To call the question means to take a vote on the matter at hand immediately.
Okay, that's what we're doing.
And so without objection, then we can move to the vote. Because if we go to a vote immediately, it's on the question of calling the question.
Okay.
So if there's no objection, then we can move to,
Is there any objections to calling the question?
We
No.
voted on the question.
So can you read his motion again, please?
yes, Your Honor. Kopsinski moved to direct staff to bring back a supplemental budget at the next city council meeting to include funding all requests presented at this meeting from the excess TLT revenues collected in 2021-2022. Furthermore, staff will bring back another resolution removing the following wording from the contracts. Quote, "These payments will not exceed $546,200 in total, or $273,100 per fiscal year of the 2021-2023 biennium for the AVA," and, quote, "These payments will not exceed $133,200 in total, or $66,600 per fiscal year of the 2021-2023 biennium," end quote, for the ADA for the remainder of this biennium budget. Novak seconded the motion.
Okay.
May I request one simple change, that instead of the next meeting, it's the soonest possible meeting?
Okay. Are you comfortable with that, Councilor Kopsinski?
You're talking about going into into January then?
No, it's December something.
The next meeting is December 12th. I just don't know if Gina will be able to have a supplemental budget
Oh, okay.
by
I thought-
December
okay.
12th.
The following meeting will be okay, yeah.
Mayor, in order for that change to be accepted, we need the okay of the second as well,
Okay.
which was Councilor Novak.
Okay, so what do I need to say?
Just a thumbs up that
an
you're okay with that.
Okay, I don't object. to
Okay,
that,
so we have a motion or change to the motion to move it to the next available meeting, or is that correct? As soon as possible, next meeting as soon as possible, for supplemental budget back. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye, thank you. Now,
Can we have a roll call?
can we roll call, please?
So, okay. The roll call is on the question in total that I just read the whole thing. Because those two changes were accepted without objection. So, on the entire question, Councilor Olson.
Now, are we voting on whether to bring this back as soon as possible, or are we voting on the entire motion?
The question, bringing this back as soon as possible instead of the next council meeting was accepted without objection. So
that's
this is on the
motion
whole
we're voting
question.
on at this point.
Yes.
Correct. This is on the question as a whole.
Yes.
Councilor Novak.
Yes.
Councilor Bartholomew.
Yes.
Councilor Kopsinski.
Just to clarify, so we're bringing the whole two-parter back at the next available meeting.
Oh,
No, just
Okay.
a minute
Yeah,
here.
that's, yeah.
Are
Mayor?
we-
Wait.
If I may, I will read the whole motion again as it stands, and then we can go straight to a vote, if that's all right with you, sir.
Okay.
All right. Kopsinski moved to direct staff to bring back a supplemental budget at the next possible council meeting, changing it. Okay. Kopsinski moved to direct staff to bring back a supplemental budget at the next possible council meeting to include funding all requests presented at this meeting from the excess TLT revenues collected in 2021-22. Furthermore, staff will bring back another resolution removing the following wording from the contracts. These payments will not exceed $546,200 in total, or $273,100 per fiscal year of the 2021-2023 biennium for the AVA, and these payments will not exceed $133,200 in total, or $66,600 per fiscal year of the 2021-2023 biennium for the ADA for the remainder of this biennium budget. Novak seconded the motion. Councillor Olson.
Yes.
Councillor Novak.
Yes.
Councillor Bartholomew.
Yes?
Councillor Kopczynski.
Yes.
Councillor Johnson.
No.
And Councillor Smith.
No.
The motion passes 4-2.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Next on tonight's agenda is business from the council. I will start with Councilor Johnson.
After that, no, nothing tonight.
Okay.
I'm still thinking about it.
Councilor Novak, I'm going back like this.
Nothing this evening.
Councilor Bartholomew.
No.
Councilor Kopczynski.
If you have friends, family, relatives, kids, et cetera, have them come down any weekend now, right through Christmas Eve, and have their pictures taken with Santa Claus. Santa's having way too much fun.
Councilor Olson.
Oh, yeah, I want to read a quote from the Albany Democrat Herald, Sunday, October 9th of this year. The goal isn't to make Albany a tourist town, Sherry said.
That it?
Yeah, so he's doing everything he can to keep this from being a tourist town. And we saw a demonstration of it tonight.
I think you need to look at the context of the whole article and probably talk to Seth when he's in here as well.
Yeah, it goes on to say, the goal is to bring more energy to downtown. And the project lays the groundwork, and what we need is hotels where people are going to stay in the hotel, not visit Albany. That's the context of the article. And I think it's really too bad.
Councilor Smith.
Nothing.
I met my granddaughter Saturday, Thursday, and it was absolutely amazing. My first granddaughter, so it was perfect. That's all I got. City manager report.
I have nothing further to add. Thank you.
And with that, I will.
What's her name?
Oh, her name is Blake Lee Marie Johnson. The mother's my son's fiance's mother's name is Brenda Lee. My daughter's name is Lee, and Marie is my wife's middle name, so it's Blake Lee Marie. So it was wonderful. I got pictures, by the way. And with that, I'll adjourn the meeting. We're going to go into a ARA meeting, and I'll be
can we
switching
take-
places with Councilor Johnson.
Yeah, let's maybe take a 5-minute
Let's take a
break.
5-minute bio break, please.
Okay.